You didn't hear this from just anyone. This is Mesmeric Femme, where we talk about feminine psychology, quiet confidence, and the kind of power you don't need to explain. Stay with me. I'll tell you what they don't. Today, we're breaking down why calm women intimidate without trying, why quiet presence feels more powerful than loud confidence. Look, this is uncomfortable to admit, but the women who intimidate the most are rarely the loudest in the room. They don't dominate conversations. They don't compete for attention. They don't raise their voice. And somehow, people still feel them, even before they speak. Stay with me. I'll tell you what they don't. By the end of this video, you'll understand why calmness isn't softness, it's emotional dominance, and why louder personalities often feel threatened by women who barely try. Let me describe a situation you probably know. You're in a room with someone loud, expressive, confident, always talking, and yet people gravitate toward the woman who says less, not because she's trying to impress, but because she doesn't seem rushed to exist. And that contrast creates tension, not loud versus quiet, but regulated versus reactive. Look, this isn't introversion. Calm women aren't invisible, they're contained. And containment reads as control. In a few minutes, I'll explain why the nervous system automatically assigns higher status to calm individuals, even when they say very little. We're taught that confidence looks like speaking up, asserting opinions, being expressive, filling silence. So naturally, loudness gets mistaken for dominance. But psychologically, loudness often signals internal pressure, the need to be seen, the need to be acknowledged, the need to maintain momentum. Calmness doesn't need momentum, it sets it. Here's where psychology enters. Humans subconsciously rank each other based on emotional regulation, not intelligence, not beauty, and not even success. Regulation. The nervous system reads who is steady, who is reactive, who is affected, and who is not, and it follows the calmest signal. Think about moments of tension, an argument, a disagreement, a charged room. The person who stays calm instantly shifts the dynamic. Everyone watches them, because calmness under pressure signals capacity. Later, I'll explain why calm women are often labeled intimidating, even when they're kind, and why that label has nothing to do with aggression. Dominance doesn't require force, it requires non-reactivity. When someone raises their voice, and you don't, when someone rushes, and you don't, when someone seeks validation, and you don't, the brain notices, and it recalibrates. Here's something subtle. Loud personalities often feel overshadowed by calm women, not because calm women overpower them, but because calm exposes imbalance. Now wait, this matters. Calm women don't intimidate on purpose. They intimidate because they don't adjust their nervous system to make others comfortable. They stay centered, and that feels confronting. Confidence isn't energy, it's lack of urgency. When you're calm, you don't rush to prove, you don't fill space, you don't chase reactions. The brain reads that as, she knows she belongs, even if no one says it out loud. In the next section, I'll break down the exact cognitive mechanism that makes calm women feel above the dynamic, and why others instinctively defer. Calm women are often misread as distant, cold, unapproachable. But that's projection. People fill silence with meaning, and when calmness doesn't offer emotional cues, others project their own insecurities onto it. Calm becomes a mirror. Here's why this works especially strongly for women. Femininity is culturally associated with warmth, expressiveness, emotional openness. So when a woman is calm and feminine, it creates cognitive dissonance. Soft appearance, strong regulation. That contrast amplifies presence. Soft doesn't mean permeable. Competition feeds on reaction. Calm women don't feed it. They don't escalate. They don't mirror chaos. They don't absorb tension. And without fuel, competition collapses. In part 2, I'll explain why calm women often become the emotional reference point in groups, and how that quietly places them at the center of power. So far, you've seen why calmness reads as dominance, how nervous systems rank each other, why loudness often backfires, and how femininity intensifies the effect. But now we need to go deeper, because calmness alone isn't enough. There's a specific type of calm that intimidates, and another type that erases you.
Here's
That
the
difference
uncomfortable truth.
matters.
In any group, hierarchy doesn't settle around who talks the most. It settles around who regulates the emotional temperature, the person everyone subconsciously adjusts to. And calm women do this without trying. Because calmness isn't the absence of emotion, it's control over emotional expression. And that alone reorganizes the room. Look, people don't follow energy, they follow stability, especially under uncertainty. There's a concept in psychology called emotional anchoring. When someone stays calm consistently, others begin to use them as a reference point. They look at them to check how serious something is, to see if a reaction is necessary, to gauge intensity. Calm women become that anchor, not because they ask for it, but because their nervous system doesn't fluctuate. In a moment, I'll explain why this makes calm women feel intimidating, especially to louder personalities, and why it has nothing to do with confidence battles. Loud personalities rely on momentum. They speak to create presence, to maintain relevance, to control pacing, to avoid silence. So when a calm woman doesn't mirror that urgency, the contrast becomes destabilizing. It quietly asks, why isn't she reacting? And that question creates insecurity. You've seen this before. Someone jokes loudly, seeks reaction, looks around for affirmation, and the calm woman doesn't laugh immediately. She doesn't reject it, she just doesn't rush. And suddenly, the room shifts. Because she didn't reward the performance. This matters. Many social behaviors are reinforced by reaction, laughter, agreement, emotional mirroring. Calm women don't over-reward, and without reinforcement, performative behavior weakens. That's why calmness often feels like authority. It controls feedback loops. Now wait, this is important. This isn't about being unkind. It's about not over-validating, and there's a difference. Here's the cognitive mechanism. When someone reacts emotionally, they're perceived as inside the situation. When someone stays calm, they're perceived as above it. Not superior, but unentangled. And unentangled individuals are granted perspective, authority, decision power, automatically. Later, I'll explain why calm women are often mistaken for being unapproachable, and why trying to fix that perception usually backfires. This effect intensifies for women, because society expects women to soothe, to respond, to soften, to emotionally harmonize. So when a woman stays calm without withdrawing warmth, it breaks expectation. Soft presence, strong containment. And that contrast feels intimidating. Here's what happens next. People begin to project onto calm women. Judgment, superiority, distance, mystery. Not because it's there, but because silence invites projection. And projection amplifies presence. You might have noticed this. You say very little. You stay composed. And people ask, "Are you okay?" You're very quiet. You seem intimidating. What they're really saying is, "I can't read you." And unreadable often equals powerful. Competition needs engagement. Calm women don't engage unnecessarily. They don't compete for airtime. They don't escalate tone. They don't mirror aggression. And without mirroring, competition dissolves. Not dramatically, quietly. Power doesn't argue. It waits. Here's another effect. Because calm women speak less, their words carry density. When they finally speak, people pause. Interruptions stop. Attention sharpens. Not because of volume, but because scarcity increased value. In the final section, I'll explain the one mistake calm women make that destroys this effect, and how passive calm turns into invisibility. This part is critical. Not all calm is powerful. There's calm that's grounded, and calm that's disengaged. One intimidates, the other disappears. And the difference isn't silence, it's presence. So now you understand why calmness reorders hierarchy, how emotional anchoring works, why loud personalities feel threatened, and how femininity amplifies intimidation. But here's the danger. Many women learn to stay calm and lose themselves in the process. They mistake stillness for strength, silence for power, and withdrawal for dominance. That's the mistake, and that's where we go next.
Here's where many women lose the effect. They learn to stay calm, but they disappear inside it. They mistake silence for strength, stillness for authority, emotional neutrality for power. And suddenly, instead of being intimidating, they're overlooked. Calm only intimidates when it's rooted in presence, not when it's rooted in avoidance. Look, this is subtle. Two women can be equally quiet. One commands the room, the other fades into the background. The difference isn't volume, it's internal positioning. Passive calm sends a very specific message. I'm trying not to be noticed. I don't want friction. I'm withdrawing. And the brain reads that as low claim to space, low expectation of influence, low social weight. That kind of calm doesn't intimidate, it dissolves. In a moment, I'll explain the exact internal shift that turns calm from passive into dominant without changing your personality. Dominant calm isn't about silence, it's about stillness with intention. You're not shrinking, you're not holding back, you're choosing not to react. And that choice is felt because your body language says, I'm here, I'm aware, I'm not rushed. That's presence. Here's the thing. People don't respond to what you say. They respond to what your nervous system communicates. Dominant calm looks like relaxed posture, steady eye contact, slow, intentional movement, unhurried responses. No apology in the body. That's what intimidates. Now, this matters. Calm doesn't mean silence forever. There are moments when speaking is the dominant move, when a boundary is crossed clearly, when disrespect becomes structural, when your role is publicly minimized. In those moments, staying silent isn't strength, it's abdication. Powerful calm speaks precisely, few words, clear tone, no emotional overflow. And because you rarely speak, when you do, the room adjusts. That's the difference between reaction and intervention. Think about a time someone made a subtle comment at your expense. The passive response is a forced smile, internal tension, silence filled with resentment. Dominant calm pauses, then responds calmly, directly, once. No escalation, no explanation, just clarity. And then silence again. In a moment, I'll explain why this kind of calm response often feels scarier than anger and why it instantly resets respect. Anger is predictable. People know how to respond to it. They push back, they defend. Calm assertion is different. It doesn't give emotional cues. It doesn't invite debate. It signals, I'm not negotiating my position. And the brain doesn't know how to fight that. When someone expects reaction and gets calm instead, their nervous system spikes. They feel exposed, because their energy has nowhere to land. And that's where intimidation comes from. Not fear, but loss of control. This is why calm women are often called intimidating, cold, distant, unapproachable. Not because they are, but because they don't regulate others. They regulate themselves. And that shifts responsibility back into the room. Here's the shift that changes everything. You stop asking, how am I being perceived? And you anchor in, how do I choose to be? That internal authority stabilizes your presence, and calm becomes natural, not forced. You don't perform calm, you inhabit it. Competition needs urgency. Calm dissolves urgency. Calm women don't fight for space, they occupy it. And others feel that immediately. Earlier, we talked about calm turning into invisibility. Here's the resolution. Calm becomes power when it's paired with self-trust. Trust that you don't need to rush. Trust that you don't need to explain. Trust that your presence is enough. Without that trust, calm collapses. With it, calm dominates. Calm women who intimidate without trying listen more than they speak. They move slower than the room. They don't chase reactions. They respond only when necessary. They don't absorb chaos. They let chaos burn itself out. The most intimidating women aren't loud. They aren't aggressive. They aren't cold. They're calm, not because they're detached from life, but because they're anchored within themselves. They don't react. They don't compete. They don't rush to be seen. They let the room come to them, because real power doesn't announce itself. It's felt the moment you realize nothing about them is shaken.